Good morning. It's December 3rd. It's starting to get a little cold out. It's not too bad now. The temperature's dropping. We may have a little snow in a couple of days. And I have a friend, a good friend, actually the friend that got me into bow building. He says, "Hey, I'd like to get a small fire hardened bow from you to keep a low poundage bow to keep at my house. So when I have guests come over and they want to take a couple of shots, they can with like a 20-pound bow." So, he knows he's made bows out of osage and hunted game in Africa, Canada. So he's experienced. So I'm going to make a lighter bow, and I figure I'll make it. It's 68 inches, okay? Well, this one's actually 66 inches. It's 66 inches. I got to reduce some weight. It's fire hardened already. It's got tips on it. I'm going to start tillering it down. And I may make the riser a little smaller so we have a little more working limbs, just with the sanding process. And I'm going to make a lightweight bow for him at like 26 and a half inches. I'm going to try and get it around 20 pounds. And hopefully it'll be able to pull back without breaking at a longer draw length. And the weight will increase a little bit as you pull back. So anyway, that's the project, to see if we can get this 66-inch bow to a really low draw weight and have it pulling back, something reasonable, 27 and a half. If I can get it 28, it'd be perfect, but we'll see. And he knows enough that if somebody comes over and they got a long draw, we'll have to give him one of his regular bows to shoot, but for youth that go over his house, or, some people that are shorter, whether it's a man or a woman, it's a great beginner bow, 20 pounds, and I'll make a right-handed bow for him. That's the project. This is one of a couple of bows that I had fire hardened, put horn tips on, and put tillering marks on, but they're not tillered. So if somebody wanted to come over and learn how to tiller a bow, they could pick one for their draw length, and we can get it down to their draw weight. So I checked it out, and it's not bad. The ends have to be touched up, but it's so heavy to get to a 20-pound bow. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time. I'm just going to reduce material, and then I'll get back to you. So I drew a line at 3/8 and took it down close to that. And then I started taking off strokes. I was taking off strokes on the belt sander. I moved the fade outs in a little bit on the riser. I marked them. So I have a little smaller riser, a little more flexible limbs on the 66-inch stave. And as I was removing material, I was floor tillering it, and because it's only going to be 20 pounds at my draw length to start, we're going to have to remove some more material. But I'm going to put it on a tillering tree, and we're going to check the bends out now. So I pulled it down, and I can still tell for a 20 to 25-pound bow, I'm going to try and get a little closer to 20 maybe. It's still very heavy, even at 3/8 thick. And we're going to just check out the bends now and see how they look, just to get a rough idea. Okay, we just have it a little bit below normal bending. And with that even amount I took off, at this point, it don't look bad. I just want to see, this is what I'm considering the top limb. I ran this long tillering string from tip to tip, and apparently it favors this side, so this is the top limb for a right-handed bow. And we got 3/4 of an inch here, so I did pretty good with the leveling it out with the strokes. Let's see what we got over here. Let's see what we got over here. We got a really nice bend going on over here too. And I have a lot of material, so I'm not really being too picky, but it looks good. And we got it dropped down a little bit. Hold on, stay up there. And we have a little bit more bending on the bottom limb. So we have to remove a lot of material because it's still very heavy for a 20 or 25-pound bow. and I'll just take a few extra strokes off the bottom limb, and we'll get back to you. I took 30 strokes off the bottom, took 35 strokes off the top, and let's see what we got as far as the way the bend looks. It still feels a little heavy. Still feels a little heavy. I just want to see, I could see already where I got to take off some material. There's some flat spots now appearing right here. So let's see what we got though. We got that 3/4. I'm going to get the pencil out. And we're going to mark where the dips are. Let's see if you could, I don't know if you could see the dip or not from the camera. But if you look, it starts bending, and then from here to here, it's not bending. Okay, we want the limb to bend evenly throughout these two tillering marks so it distributes the weight evenly and don't stress out the limbs. And it's regardless if it's a 10-pound bow or a 100-pound bow, you want it perfectly even to bend. Okay, now let's look at this one here. Try and come back a little and look at it. Okay, you can see there's a little, from here to here is a flat spot. A little bit needs to come off of there. And we got got to move this up a little bit. Want this kind of precision to see what we got to do here. Okay, we got 3/4 there. And we got to remove material. It's a little heavy. So once again, we got 3/4 there. And we got, you know, almost 3/4 here, but we got to remove weight. We're going to remove these low spots or flat spots to get them to bend. So if you have 60 grit sandpaper, you would start in the middle of the dip, you know, and erase the pencil line. Start going in like this and work your way out to the edges that you have drawn. Put it up, check it, put the pencil mark, and sand it again. I'm using a belt sander, and it's harder to make a low pound bow than it is a heavier pound bow sometimes, because you go a little either way and you miss your goal weight, and then you have, you know, like a real kitty bow instead of a 20-pound bow. So when it gets close, I may switch over just to the 60 grit hand sanding to finish the tillering. But it's still got a lot of weight. Yeah, it's still got a lot of weight. So I'm going to remove the high spots now and take off a few strokes after I remove these high spots. As I'm removing weight, I got 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just rounding the edges, just taking the sharp corners off, going back and forth. I just don't want any, it's getting thinner, you know, we're going to make a light bow, thin bow, and I don't want any splinters to come up. And once again, if you have the 60 grit sandpaper, and this is the high spot, you start in the middle and work your way out around the edges. Check it. If it's still high, erase the pencil marks again, work your way out. So I'll do the same over here because these were little high spots here. Okay, we're going to check it. So when you're using a long tillering string, on my tillering tree I have marks. And from this line, which would be top of the riser, is a draw length. Okay, the actual draw length from the front of your hand to your draw length, okay? So this now, we have a long string. These marks are just reference points so we can have a repeatable, to pull it down, a repeatable length for the bends and to get it to bend evenly, okay? So we kind of got it. I have an X marked on this one, and it's the notch below the X, okay? So that's how I know, okay? Just, you can mark them up, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want, or just look at this here, okay, for the tillering mark. And we're going to check the bend and see what we got here. Yeah, let me get out of the way and see if you could see. Okay, from what I see, there's a really nice bend, but there's still a little here, tiny little bit of touch up here, okay? And just to see how much we got them bending at that, we got 3/4, okay? So now, let me check this one out here over here. I have to move some bark. I got some bark in the way from when I steamed the bark off. I haven't made the trip to get rid of it yet. Okay, let's look. When we look at this limb here, which we got the bottom limb, and you could see, I'm hoping you could see, now that you got time to look at it a little bit, from here to here, okay, we got a little flat spot. It's not really bending there. And just for a guide, see how the limbs are bending. So after we remove those low spots to get them, we're going to take a couple extra strokes off here or there. Okay, and remember, when we put a string on, we're going to want the top limb to bend a 1/4 inch more. Drops down. Okay, we got the bottom limb bending a little more, okay, by like 1/8 inch. So we're going to remove these. You can see, sort of see from here even, the flat spots. You see here, it looks almost like a dip. Okay, we're going to remove that and take a few more strokes off to even them out. You feel the weight. You know, only because we're going to such a low draw weight, after I do this, I'm going to take a few more strokes off. Okay, move some material where it had to be. And just so you know, I'm taking my time now. So I went easy, came back, and need a little more. I put another pencil mark, so that's 2 times to get it to where it is now. So let's check it out. That's 7/8. We got 7/8. I want to see if I can stand back so you can see the bends. Okay, if you look with the yardstick, you can see that it's got a nice bend. There's no more real low dip there. And I'll just do this one more time. I'll stand back over here so you can look at it too. Okay, so now if you look at it, we got that really beautiful bend too. So now we can go down another inch. We're going to go down another inch. Now we're at the point where we can start going down. Let's go down another inch. Work it a little bit. Go down another inch. Let's see if we see anything. Nothing. Looks good. It looks good. Let's go down another inch. We got to go down to about here for a, you know, put a string on. And as far as the weight goes, well, I'd rather it be just a little heavy at this point in time. Let's go down a little bit more. And remember, you know, I think it's harder to make a lower pound bow because you have to be more careful. And I make sure I round the edges so there's no sharp edges to splinter, okay? So let's see what we got here, if anything jumps out. And remember, when we put the string on, we're going to want that top limb a little bit more positive tiller, which means we want the top limb bending 1/4 of an inch more when we have the string on. We have 1 3/8 here. It's a little hard to see with the sun, but we got 1 3/8 here. And we got 1 1/4 inches, so it's 1/8 of an inch bending more on top. But the important thing is the bend. And we look at it as we go down to see if anything jumps out. And you can see how perfect that bend looks, right? Look one more time. See how perfect it is? It's a beautiful bend. And we got to go, once again, we got to go down a little bit more to get to a string on. And we're at almost like what 25-inch draw, which is marked on the on my tillering stick here. But what I'm going to do is just put a little pencil mark here. We're going to pull it with a scale down to here to see what the weight is now. Okay. We got like 36 pounds. Pull it down again. About 23, 24. 36 pounds. So it's still got to come down. We still got to reduce some weight before we put a string on this. So that's why I say it's harder to make a low pound bow. You got to be careful. You're going thinner. Round it, take your time. And we're going to reduce some more weight and come back. Just to save a little time, I gently, when you're trying to get it to a low pound bow, gently go back. I don't care if it's 10 times you go back or 20 times, or it takes you 2 days. Go very slow, removing material and round the edges, okay? So let's see what we got. I know I checked it out already. The top limb is 1/4 of an inch more. We're ready for a string. And look at that bend, a beautiful bend. And we got a beautiful bend, and we're going to try and put a string on it. And like I said, the top should be 1/4 of an inch more. Things change, for whatever reason, things change when you put on a string. So we're going to put on a string and then adjust the limbs. And when we adjust the limbs, it should bring it down to that 20 pounds or so at 26.5 inches. Okay, I found the string. I have a string on. It's got a 6-inch brace height. When I shape the handle, it'll have a little bit more. The inners are pretty much even, and the top limb is 1/4 of an inch more. But when I strung it, I could feel it's nowhere near a 20-pound bow. So when you pull back, you could see that the limb wants to turn into your hand. Then you know you have the right side as the top limb. So I have the top limb marked. Just too heavy. Too heavy. Got to go back and remove a bunch of material. Sort of like almost starting over again. Too heavy. Just so you know, on my belt sand, I have a dull belt that started out as a 40 grit belt. And what I do is the belt spinning. I put my hand over, you've seen in some of my other videos, and I do strokes. I did 35 strokes on each limb. So let's see what we got here. We're looking at the bend again. We're starting backwards. We're looking at the bend again. We want to make sure that that bend stayed true. And I'm pretty good with the strokes that it's even. But we're going to look for anything that jumps out, a flat spot, anything that had materialized. And this is kind of at brace height. Looks like about 1 7/8. Yeah, look at that bend. I don't see nothing that's sticking out, right? And what do we have here? We have 1 5/8. So we got a 1/4 inch on the top, a little positive, which is good. All right, well, I'm going to put a string on it and see how it feels again. Still in the 30s. We're going to remove a bunch of material, which has me thinking, depending on how thin I go, I may want to put a little rawhide if it's awful thin. For somebody who grabs the bow, never shot before, pulls it back, a little longer drawer. And if it's thin, if it's that thin, it may not hold up to a longer draw length, but we'll see. I removed a lot of material. Okay. Came back a couple of times, and we're just checking it again. And you can see we have a really nice bend, and this one's bending a 1/4 inch more like we want it because it's the brace height. And we got a nice bend, nothing jumping out at all. And like I said, the top is a 1/4 inch more like we like it. We're going to string it up and see what happens. Just a little update. Keep on removing material. I got it 32 pounds at 26 inches. And for those of you who say, oh, you should never go over your intended draw weight. Well, this bow is going to be used from little kids to people with a little longer draw. And I'm sure at full draw it'll be like 38 pounds, when I'm done. But I'm going to try and the goal I'm going to try and set is at my 26.5. I'm going to try and get it around 20 to 25 pounds within that range. So I got to remove some more material, okay? And we'll get back to you. Once you have a string on your bow and you have it measured, it's got a little positive tiller up top. What I want you to do is just pull it down a little bit, exercise it. And what we're going to do is just go down to like, what are we at here? We're at 16. So we're at an actual 16-inch draw length. And what we're going to do here now is to make sure that we have a nice bend with no hinges before we pull it back and go crazy with it. And we're going to look for anything that might jump out, okay? And I don't think we could ask for a better bend, right? Now let's look over here. It's hard to do this by yourself. And we're going to look at the bend here now at a 15-inch draw. And we're trying to see if there's any real flat spots or anything that needs to be adjusted. Okay, and it's hard, but I don't really see anything that jumps out on me. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is stand back and look at it. Okay, we're going to stand back and look at it. And obviously the top is bending more. You can't look at the siding and that post because the post isn't glued in. It moves back and forth. The back of the riser is even with the post. But when you look at the bends, we got good bends. Okay, so now let's see what kind of weight we got when I pull it back. After many times of removing weight, checking the tiller on the string in the bow with the string on, and checking it on the tillering tree to see if there's any changes happening. I believe we're still slightly heavy now. Let me see what we got. We're at 30 pounds. We're at 30 pounds. And, you know, this is for people that never pulled back a bow before, just to try and shoot at my friend's house. And I'm going to remove a little more weight. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to take some more weight off and round the edges and check it on the tillering tree. And one more time. I'm telling you, I must have went back and forth about 30 times. Now, I chose this bow blank because it was heavily fire hardened. And it's still got a little color. Not a lot, but it's still got some color in it. And we have it a 1/4 inch positive tiller. And I just want to review a few things with you. Once you put a string on and you measure it, if it's out of whack, what you have to do is usually take a few strokes off of one limb's bending more than the other. And what you want to end up with is the top limb a 1/4 inch. They say between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch. So I go a 1/4 inch to 3/8. It's kind of my limits. Bending more on the top. So we have that now. We have this. This is a 1/4 inch. And every time I sand and remove material, I round the edges with 120 grit. And just to show you what I do, once the string's on, you know, the string's on, I can pull it down just a little to keep it there. And I could check the bends out on my tillering marks, right? And like I said, you can't pay attention to the siding. And what I do is I just make sure that it's got a beautiful bend, and it does. You know, make sure there's nothing jumps out, no flat spots. You know, so you're doing it again with the string on. Once you get the string on, you're looking for a nice bend. And then what I like to do is I like to go down to an actual like 15-inch draw length. Okay, an actual 15-inch draw length. And just check and see if anything weird would jump out. And it don't. It's beautiful, right? So what I'm hoping is we shoot this in, it'll lighten up a little bit. You know, it's going to lighten up a little bit. The wood's going to bend. It's going to flex. It's 26 at 26.5 at my draw length. And I'm going to cut a shelf. I'm going to shape it. And we're going to go in the backyard and we're going to do a little shooting. And yeah, I pulled it back. I pulled it back a little further to make sure it holds up for somebody with a little longer draw. And this is 66 inches long. So let me shape up the handle and I'll show you what it looks like. And we're going to do a little shooting with this. You can watch my videos on how I shape the riser. I have a video on it. And basically where the center line is, the middle finger goes there. I grip it and I draw a line on top of my hand. Okay, a line across, and that's where I'm going to go down to cut a shelf. And I'm not going to go, I don't want to go into the fade out here. I just want to go in the meaty part. Okay. And what I'm going to do is use a hacksaw to cut it down, to go down, a hacksaw. And I'm going to cut the hacksaw on a little bit of an angle to make sort of a V, so it'll be a crowned riser. Okay, then we're going to use a chisel, or however you want to take it down, to this line. Use a rasp and a file to get it. You want it a little bit flat here, a little flat here, and then you want it to come up so the arrow clears, because you're going to have this angle. Okay, here's the X I cut out. You know, one of the pieces broke off, but you got the idea. There's the X. Okay, now I'm going to chisel it, draw a line here and chisel it down. So now that I have the rough cut, I carefully use a rasp, and I try not to go down. I go up like this on an angle, and then I'll flip it over, and I'll go up like this so I don't get too much tear outs. And I'm only using this just a little to take off some marks, some big marks. Then I switch over to this really nice half-round file, cheap Harbor Freight file that's worth its weight in gold. And then I'll finish it up, removing any marks, and then I'll sand it. And then I'm going to use the belt sander. You could hand sand it or whatever you want to. Change the tape is, round it, shape it. I'll show you. Okay, it looks a little better. I draw a line down here. This is where my hand's going to go underneath, and there'll be a ridge underneath the shelf, okay? And there'll be a little indent here for an index for my hand. And then if you see on this side here, let me show you on this side. You see how when you index it, you see how your thumb goes down? So what I'll do is I'll take the pencil from that mark, that index mark, and draw it down. Okay? And it's going to be a little bit down when I shape it, okay? I'm going to follow this guideline, and I'm going to work with the guideline on top of the belt. So I'm starting to go underneath and around the back, and now I'm going to angle this down to take this angle. Yeah, let's see what we got so far. So far we have an index. We have our thumb going down. We have this here for the shelf. Okay, so we got these rough, trimmed out hand placement marks, okay? So it's rough. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take down these fade outs a little to make them look a little nicer, taping them. Show you how I do that. I'm going to round the bottom. I move it down so where the grip is will be tapered a little bit. So you can see the fade outs came down quite a bit, right? Okay, obviously it needs a little bit more work. I'm going to touch it up and then I'll hand sand it. There's no sense in me having you watch the whole thing, but you got an idea on how I rough shape it. Like if you look here, you see the sticker here? I'll cut it a little leveler, you know, and then the rest I'll do by hand. So that's basically how I shape the grip. I'll show you when I'm done. Even though I round the edges right here, okay, the pad on the riser I want kind of flat because I want that to go in the pad of your hand like that, okay? See? Now, just a little bit more touch up, and then I'm going to sand it. I use 80 grit, and then I use 100 grit, 100 or 120. I happen to have 120 today. So 80 grit, then a lot of 120, and then I think I got like 230 or something I'm going to finish it up with. It's all finished. Looks beautiful, right? Finished up with 220. Some of the tillering marks, you know, you try to get them off with a erase, you can't, so I used the 220, rounded it to remove the pencil marks. And we're going to go in the backyard and shoot this little bow. Looks pretty good, right? So it's about 26 pounds at my 26.5-inch draw, and it's going to be at my friend's house. So, you know, like people come over, they want to shoot a bow in his yard. You know, he's got some targets, and they'll be able to take this Fire Hardened Hickory bow. You can still see the color. I chose this one because it was so deeply fire hardened. I knew there'd be some color left when I took it down. And we're going to shoot it in. We're going to shoot it. Actually, we don't have to shoot it in. I exercised it so much. I exercised it. It was like shooting it in. I exercised it in between every time I removed material and rounded the edges. So we're going to shoot it at my draw length now. I'm going to take a few shots with it and get it to break in, see how it shoots. And it does go back more than my 26.5, you know, but I want to shoot a little at my 26.5. The bear's about 10 yards. Right there. Let's see, that deer is at 15. Right there. That deer in the back is 20. It's the first time I'm shooting it, so. Not bad at all. Let's go check it out. I'm going to shoot it some more, but, you know, not off camera. This is going to be the end of it. Let me just show you. Okay, that's 10. That's 15. And that's 20 yards. A little lower 20. Like I said, it's the first time I'm shooting this. So anyway, I just wanted to take you on that little journey I have. I find it's harder to make a light pound bow than it is a heavier pound bow. Because the lighter you go, the thinner the limbs, the more meticulous. You should be meticulous from the beginning, though, with any tillering. But with the yardstick, making sure there's no flat spots, no dips, you know. And the yardstick gets you to where you got to be. All right, it really does. So for untuned arrows, and like I said, they're not making those in trotters anymore. I'm sure they'll pop up under some other label. But those are kind of my favorite for a lightweight bow. So that's the end of it. This is the bow that's going to be given to my friend just to keep at his house. When somebody comes over, you know, they'll be able to pull it back. This is 26.5. You know, it goes back a little bit, you know. And I'm going to tell them if there's anybody with like 28, 29, use your bow. You know what I mean? This is for like 27. Shorter people, you know, any youth, short people, let them use this. All right, to learn. So that's it. Every day you wake up is a great day. It's kind of boring, but this video, but hopefully you get the idea. You got to go back and forth, a little at a time. Even if it takes you a couple of days, you know. I was taking baby steps, you know, to try and reduce the pounds. I went from like 38 to 35 to 34 to 33, 32, 29, 28. I was like, oh, it's 28. I wish I... And then I got it now to about 26. After I shoot it in, hopefully it'll settle down a little lower, okay? But it's beautiful. I think I'm going to stain this with dark brown leather dye and coat it with warm satin polyurethane. See the buffalo horn tips, right? Every day I wake up, it's a great day. Thanks for watching. This is the first coat of dark brown leather dye. Looks pretty good. Have to see after it dries. It dries a little darker. It may or may not need a second coat. Then it'll be covered with warm satin polyurethane when it's dry. But it's looking good.